Discipline is the quiet fire beneath the soul's song. It wakes before dawn, walks with grace, and whispers, "Not yet," when pleasure tempts. It is a hush louder than applause, a step steadier than talent. A great life? It ain't magic, child. It's discipline wrapped in dignity, walking tall every single day. Discipline brings freedom. That may sound like a contradiction to some. How could something so structured, so often mistaken for restriction, be the very thing that grants liberation? But if you listen, not just with your ears, but with your life, you'll hear the truth in it. Discipline is not a cage. It is a key, and the door it unlocks leads to your most meaningful, most magnificent self. Freedom in its purest form is not the absence of boundaries, but the presence of mastery. The one who controls themselves, their time, their impulses, their mind, is far more free than the one who follows every desire, every distraction, every passing thrill. Because real freedom isn't doing whatever you want whenever you want. That's chaos. Real freedom is being able to do what you must, even when you don't want to. Discipline teaches that. It trains the soul like a river carves the earth, slow, steady, and transformative. Discipline is the act of waking up even when the bed feels soft and the world feels hard. It is saying yes to the long road that builds character and no to shortcuts that steal it. It's the repetition of the right thing until it becomes the easy thing. And when it becomes easy, you don't just live, you glide, you soar. You move in a rhythm that others mistake for talent, but you know better. It is practice, it is patience, it is showing up after failure again and again, wearing the bruises like medals. That is freedom. You see, people without discipline are often ruled by something or someone else. Urges, mood swings, opinions, or the momentum of the crowd. They don't own their mornings. They don't guard their time. They hand their power to every little craving and then wonder why their days feel scattered, their dreams unfinished. But discipline takes the wheel back. It teaches you to direct your energy where it matters. It does not silence your desires. It prioritizes them. When a dancer trains every day, she earns the freedom to improvise. When a writer practices the craft, he earns the freedom to break the rules. When a human being disciplines their thoughts, emotions, and habits, they earn the freedom to live with intention, not reaction. That's what separates the drifting from the driven, discipline. And it's not always pretty. Oh no, discipline isn't glamorous. It is sweat in the early hours and silence when applause hasn't come yet. It is skipping the easy choice. It is grace under resistance. But hidden in that grit is a quiet joy, because there's something sacred in doing what you said you would do even when it's hard. That kind of integrity becomes a light, and the one who walks by that light, oh, they are free. Freedom isn't the ability to chase every new path. It's the ability to choose your path and walk it with clarity. It's having a life that reflects your values, not your impulses. Discipline builds that. It builds trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, there is no prison that can hold you, not fear, not doubt, not even failure. So many of us want success. We pray for peace. We speak of legacy. But the door to all of that swings on the hinge of discipline, because there's no peace without order. There's no success without sacrifice. There's no legacy without labor. And there is no labor more sacred than mastering your own self. So when you hear the word discipline, don't think of chains. Think of wings, because it is not here to hold you back. It is here to lift you forward. It is not here to keep you small. It is here to teach you how to hold greatness without it breaking you. Discipline brings freedom, not because it removes all struggle, but because it teaches you how to carry it with grace. Consistency over chaos is not a slogan. It is a way of being that nourishes excellence and builds a life you can trust. Chaos is loud, wild, and sometimes even thrilling, but it does not last. It does not sustain. It comes in flashes like lightning in the sky, but leaves nothing behind but smoke and confusion. Consistency, though quiet and often unnoticed, is what builds monuments. It is what turns moments into momentum and effort into excellence. The person who shows up every day, even a little, will always outlast the one who sprints one day and disappears the next. It is the small act done daily that shapes your destiny, not the grand gesture done once and forgotten. Consistency does not ask you to be perfect. It simply asks you to return to the work, to the dream, to the commitment you made when you were clear and certain. And in that return, over and over again, chaos is tamed. Chaos is tempting. It promises excitement. It dresses itself in urgency and insists that everything must happen now or not at all. But that urgency is a thief. It steals your focus, your energy, and your peace. When you live in chaos, you may feel busy, but you are rarely building. You may be moving, but you are rarely moving forward. Consistency, on the other hand, is not dramatic. It won't flood you with adrenaline or give you applause. What it gives is deeper. It gives you progress, and over time, it gives you mastery. There is a kind of quiet magic in routines, not the dull, lifeless kind that numbs the spirit, but the intentional kind that protects your purpose. A routine, when chosen with love and clarity, becomes a sacred rhythm. It holds you steady when emotions sway. It grounds you when doubt arrives. And in a world that is constantly trying to pull you in every direction, consistency anchors you to what matters most. Consistency teaches the body how to be strong, the mind how to be clear, and the heart how to be steady. It teaches discipline not as punishment, but as devotion to your goals, to your growth, and to your greatness. The artist who paints a little every day, even when uninspired, grows her gift. The leader who shows up with integrity each morning, even when tired, earns trust. The student, the parent, the entrepreneur, whatever the role, those who commit to showing up consistently create space for transformation. We often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can become in a year. That's because chaos tricks us into thinking that success must be fast, loud, and visible. But the truth is, greatness grows in silence, in daily choices, in moments where no one is watching, but you are still doing the work. It grows in the discipline to keep going, even when the mood has faded and the motivation is gone. The world celebrates sudden success, but what it doesn't see are the quiet, consistent hours behind the scenes. The early mornings, the late nights, the missed parties, the uncomfortable sacrifices. That's not chaos, that's commitment. That's someone who has decided that their dream is worth the effort. Someone who understands that slow and steady is not weakness, it is wisdom. Consistency is not about never making mistakes. It's about returning after the mistake. It's about recommitting after the distraction. It's about choosing your values again and again, especially when chaos comes knocking. Because it will. Life will shake you. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. But if you are consistent, you will not be broken. You will bend, maybe, but you will not fall. Because your roots are deep. Because you have built your life not on flashes of effort, but on foundations of persistence. So let the world be chaotic if it must. Let it shout and spin and chase every trend. But you stay consistent. Stay faithful to your process. Stay rooted in your truth, because it is better to move 1 inch in the right direction every day than to leap a mile in madness and lose your way. In the end, consistency may not look glamorous, but it wins. It always wins. Restraint sharpens vision. It draws a line between what is possible and what is purposeful. In a world that urges you to grab more, chase faster, and never pause, restraint is radical. It is a quiet form of wisdom, a deep knowing that not every path deserves your feet, not every opportunity deserves your yes, and not every impulse deserves your attention. Restraint is not lack, it is clarity. It does not shrink your life, it focuses it. When you practice restraint, you begin to see what truly matters. The noise fades. The distractions lose their appeal. You stop reaching for everything, and instead, you start reaching with intention. Vision without restraint is like light without a lens. It scatters, it glows, but it doesn't pierce. But when you learn to say no, when you hold yourself back from the immediate and the excessive, your focus sharpens. You begin to see not just what glitters, but what grows. Restraint is not weakness. It is strength under control. It is a refusal to be ruled by appetite, whether that appetite is for praise, attention, comfort, or even success. There are times when what you want most in the moment can lead you away from what you want most in your life. Restraint steps in at those times. It does not yell, it whispers, wait. It reminds you that patience is power, that discipline is dignity, that some doors must remain unopened, not because you couldn't walk through them, but because you choose a better path. A person who masters restraint begins to live with intention. They don't just spend time, they invest it. They don't just fill their schedule, they fill it with purpose. They don't speak to be heard, they speak to uplift, to clarify, to contribute. Restraint in its highest form turns you into someone who doesn't react to life but responds to it with precision. Like an archer pulling back the bow, restraint is not the absence of action. It is preparation for impact. In relationships, restraint protects love. It teaches you not to lash out in anger, not to speak every thought just because you feel it. It teaches you to listen more, to judge less, to pause before you assume. In work, restraint keeps you from burnout. It reminds you that not every task deserves your time and that rest is not a reward but a requirement. In creativity, restraint is the difference between chaos and craft. A poet doesn't put every word on the page. A sculptor doesn't keep every piece of stone. It is what they leave out that gives the final piece its shape, its meaning, its beauty. In a culture obsessed with more noise, more content, more success, restraint becomes a kind of vision correction. It helps you remember that not everything that glows is gold, and not everything urgent is important. It strips away the unnecessary so you can focus on the essential. Without restraint, life becomes cluttered. You say yes to too many people, too many promises, too many paths. And in trying to be everything, you lose your way. But when you practice restraint, you begin to live lighter, clearer, freer. You no longer chase what you do not need. You no longer fear missing out because you understand what you are truly meant to carry and what is meant to be released. You no longer measure your life by volume, but by value. That's what restraint teaches. It sharpens your vision by narrowing your aim, helping you move with accuracy, not just ambition. There is power in holding back. There is wisdom in pausing. The world may not reward it immediately, but your soul will, because restraint gives you space to reflect, to refocus, to return to your center. It teaches you to trust that doing less, when done with intention, leads to more depth, more impact, more truth. A clear life is not built by taking every road. It is built by knowing which road is yours and walking it with purpose without being pulled by every passing wind. Restraint is the guide that keeps your vision clear and your path true. It teaches you that power isn't always found in the push. Sometimes it's in the pause. Self-respect is born from discipline, not from praise, not from talent, not even from success, but from the quiet daily act of keeping your word to yourself. Discipline is the mirror in which you meet your true self, not the one shaped by public opinion or fleeting emotions, but the one shaped by commitment, perseverance, and truth. And when you honor that self again and again, respect is no longer something you seek from others. It rises from within. Discipline isn't about punishing yourself or living without joy. It's about choosing long-term dignity over short-term comfort. It's about saying, I matter enough to show up for myself, whether it's getting up when it's easier to sleep in, finishing a task when distractions call, or walking away from what diminishes your spirit. Every disciplined act is a declaration, I am worth the effort. Self-respect doesn't come from appearance or applause. It doesn't bloom from moments of ease. It grows in struggle, in resistance, in those moments when you push through doubt and fatigue and still choose what's right over what's easy. When you discipline yourself, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe in your strength, not because someone told you it was there, but because you proved it to yourself. In silence, in solitude, in the small choices no one else sees. A person without discipline is often at the mercy of their impulses. They live in reaction rather than intention. Their energy is scattered, their boundaries loose, their words unanchored. But discipline creates order, and from order rises self-respect. It says, I value myself too much to live in chaos. I honor my time, my goals, and my body. And in honoring those things, you rise in your own eyes, not through pride, but through peace. Discipline helps you say no without guilt and yes without fear. It teaches you that boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to better living. When you have discipline, you do not need to explain your worth because your actions speak for you. You don't need to chase validation because your consistency affirms your value. You don't crumble at criticism because you've built your life on a foundation stronger than opinion. You've built it on principle. Self-respect means you walk away when your soul is starving, even if the table is full. It means you speak kindly to yourself, not because you feel good every day, but because you've shown up for yourself too many times to deserve anything less. And that kind of strength doesn't come from motivation. It comes from discipline, the repetition of self-love through self-action. You don't earn self-respect in a single grand gesture. You earn it when you finish what you started, when you keep the promise you made to yourself on a better day, when you decide that how you treat yourself matters, even if no one else is looking. That decision, repeated, transforms you. And with each disciplined choice, the voice inside, the one that used to doubt, used to belittle, begins to shift. It softens, it strengthens. It says, look at you, you did that again. You see, the one who is disciplined doesn't just walk taller in public. They sleep deeper at night. There's a calm that comes from knowing you're not at war with yourself. That calm is the reward of discipline. That calm is self-respect. And it cannot be bought, borrowed, or begged for. It must be earned through effort, through intention, through time. The truth is, no one can give you the kind of love you give yourself when you live in integrity. Discipline isn't always comfortable. It asks more of you than you feel like giving, but it gives back so much more. It gives you a sense of ownership over your actions, over your choices, over your life. And when you own your life, truly own it, that's when self-respect stands tall. That's when you begin to move differently, not out of arrogance, but out of assurance. And when life shakes you, as it will, you'll be grounded. Because discipline doesn't just build habits, it builds character. And character is the foundation of self-respect. You'll look in the mirror and meet someone you trust. someone who has faced storms and still stood firm, someone who didn't just dream, but did, someone who knows that self-respect isn't handed out, it's lived into, and it all begins with discipline. Discipline turns pain into power. It does not erase the pain or pretend it doesn't exist. It transforms it. It gathers the ache, the failure, the frustration, and turns them into fuel. Pain by itself can break you, but pain with purpose, guided by discipline, can build you. It can become the very foundation of your strength. Life will hurt. That is a promise no one escapes. There will be disappointment, rejection, loss, and moments when the weight feels unbearable. But pain is not the enemy. It is a messenger. It tells you something matters. It tells you something must change. What you do next, what you choose to do with that pain, is what defines you. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline meets you in the dark, when you've fallen, when you feel alone, when you can barely see a way forward. Discipline doesn't demand that you leap. It just asks you to take one step and then another and then another. It gives you structure when everything else feels like it's falling apart. It gives you something to hold on to, something to work toward. That daily effort becomes a rope you can pull yourself up with, one small motion at a time. Without discipline, pain often becomes bitterness. It festers. It sits heavy in the soul. People carry their wounds and let them lead, let them harden the heart or blur the vision. But with discipline, pain becomes a tool. You take the sharpness and carve a new path. You take the weight and build muscle. You take the fire and forge something stronger. Discipline does not make the pain easier. It makes you capable. Those who have faced adversity and risen are not just lucky or gifted. They are disciplined. They didn't allow pain to define them. They used it to refine them. They trained through tears. They worked while healing. They kept moving when comfort begged them to stop. Pain gave them the story. Discipline wrote the chapters. It's easy to show up when things are good, when the sun is shining, when you're praised, when energy is high. But real transformation happens in the storm. Discipline shows you that you can be tired and still continue. You can be discouraged and still show up. You can be wounded and still grow. And something beautiful happens when you do. You start to feel a different kind of power, not the kind that needs to be seen or applauded, but the kind that sits quietly in your bones. The power of knowing you didn't quit. The power of showing up for yourself when no one else did. That power doesn't come from a perfect life. It comes from a disciplined life. Discipline allows you to take control of your narrative. You may not choose the pain that enters your life, but you choose the role it plays. You choose whether it becomes your excuse or your edge. You choose whether it silences you or strengthens your voice. And every time you show up despite the pain, every time you commit to the process, you reclaim a little more of your power. The body learns to endure. The mind learns to focus. The heart learns to hope again, not in the absence of pain, but in the discipline of pushing through it. In those moments, you begin to realize that the pain didn't come to stop you, it came to shape you. And discipline is what helps you receive the lesson without being consumed by the suffering. There is a sacred kind of pride that comes from knowing you have walked through fire and did not burn. From knowing that the pain tried to bury you, but discipline became your shovel and you dug your way out. That pride can't be faked. It can't be gifted. It must be earned through sweat, through perseverance, through quiet mornings and restless nights when you chose the harder path because you knew it was the right one. So let the pain come as it will. Let it knock on your door, but when it enters, meet it with discipline. Let it teach you, not defeat you. Let it test you, not break you. Let it push you, but never pull you away from who you are becoming. Because when pain meets discipline, what comes out on the other side is not weakness or regret. It is power, real power, the kind no one can take from you, the kind that lasts. Legacy is crafted through daily choices, not in grand declarations or perfect moments, but in the quiet, consistent decisions you make when no one is watching. Legacy isn't something you stumble into or something that magically appears at the end of your life. It's built one choice at a time: how you speak, how you love, how you show up, and how you stay true. It is the echo of your actions, the ripple of your integrity, the trail your character leaves behind. Many people think legacy is only for the old or the famous, as if it's something reserved for the history books. But the truth is, you are writing your legacy right now. With every word you speak, every habit you repeat, every time you choose kindness over cruelty, courage over comfort, honesty over ease, you are shaping what you will be remembered for. You are shaping who you are, and that shape leaves an imprint long after you're gone. Legacy doesn't require wealth or fame. It requires intention. It requires choosing to live on purpose, not just passing through your days, but infusing them with meaning. The mother who chooses patience when she's exhausted, the teacher who believes in a child no one else sees, the friend who shows up again and again even when life gets heavy, those people are building a legacy that outlives them. What you do each day becomes who you are, and who you are becomes what you leave behind. It's easy to wait for the big moments, the big stage, the big break, but that waiting robs you of the quiet power of now. Because now is where legacy lives, in the way you treat the stranger, in the way you apologize, in how you forgive, how you create, how you carry yourself when life feels unfair. You don't have to be perfect to build a legacy. In fact, it's your imperfections and how you meet them that often shape your story the most. People don't remember flawless. They remember real. They remember who kept going, who stood tall in the face of pain, who chose love when it was hard. Your daily choices reveal your values, and your values are what people will remember far more than your titles or achievements. Discipline plays a powerful role in this, because without discipline, your intentions stay intentions. Dreams remain dreams. Discipline takes the vision you hold and anchors it to reality. It helps you align your actions with your values. It helps you live a life that doesn't just sound good in words, but feels true in the doing. When you live like that, your days become a testimony, not of perfection, but of persistence, of principle, of presence. Legacy is not about what you have, it's about what you give. And giving isn't always money or material. It's your energy, your time, your attention. It's the way you pour into the people you care about, the way you create space for others to feel seen and safe. It's in the wisdom you pass down, not in lectures, but in the way you live your truth. There is no single moment that defines a legacy. It's a mosaic. It's built with tiny tiles laid day after day. Some days you'll feel strong, others weak. Some choices will be clear, others hard. But what matters is the direction you're facing, the intention behind your actions, the willingness to get back up when you fall. Because even the stumbles, when met with humility, can become part of a powerful legacy. The question is not, what will people remember you for? The question is, what are you becoming through the choices you make today? Legacy is not about the applause. It's about the alignment between your values and your actions. It's not built in a rush or a moment of glory. It's built in the slow, steady act of living with purpose. Every day, every choice, every step forward is a brick in the house of your legacy. So don't underestimate the power of the ordinary. Don't dismiss the weight of your daily actions. The smallest decision, made with love, made with courage, made with integrity, that is what echoes. That is what remains. That is what becomes your legacy. A great life isn't built in bursts, it's forged in the quiet strength of discipline. Through restraint, consistency, self-respect, and purpose, pain transforms into power, and daily choices shape legacy. Discipline doesn't restrict, it refines. In choosing it, we don't just succeed, we become whole, and we leave something that lasts.